All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the first ever episode of the Patel podcast. Today, I have the honor of my best friend and one of my favorite people who I studied with at UBC. He is a graduate from the Faculty of Science, works in the CDC, and he's looking towards med school. So his name is Brody. But yeah, Brody, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Really, really means a lot.
Yeah. So do you want to start by kind of did I leave anything out in that
No,
intro?
yeah. I do research at St. Paul's, connected to the Center for Disease Control. Um, we're doing a couple studies, looking at Mpox, doing some drug trials, and yeah, I do some MCAT tutoring on the side. But yeah, no, happy to be here.
Yeah, so a lot of people often kind of wonder how to like make friends and stuff in university and how to meet people. The funny thing is with Brody, I actually met him in the chemistry class of first year and we just sat next to each other. We said hi. So that's a good tip I would say for anybody um in classes. Just say hi to the people that you're next to and all that sort of stuff.
The
Because
rest is history. Yeah, we've been no, going to office hours
yeah,
weekly since. You know.
yeah, and when I talk a lot about on my channel how we have group calls to like study for tests and exams and stuff, these are the people I do it with. Brody's on almost every single one for all the classes, and it's actually such a good way to learn. Um, because you're teaching each other, you're going through the learning objectives, you're testing each other, you're asking questions about like, oh, things that you were confused about or didn't fully understand. So I think that's like a good tip for anybody to kind of find some friends, form a little study group. Yeah. So Brody, what advice would you have for anybody thinking of like biology major and UBC and med school sort of stuff?
So I'm not sure how, you know, well, this knowledge can be extrapolated to other fields, but definitely for the sciences, just found some things over the years that kind of really helped me. Um, feel like I'm doing my best in the classes and, get some grades that I'm happy with. So definitely like you touched on tutoring or going to office hours is a huge one. You can really I think by asking questions and talking to the TA or the prof, you really kind of see the holes and the weaknesses that you have, the material, and clearly you're going to get like the best answers possible because these are the people that are making your exams. So that's a that's an easy one off the bat, I'd say. Um, Another one that you and I both are big fans of, flashcards and spaced repetition. So as you probably viewers know, Bovin's a big Quizlet fan, and I'm I've always used Anki for like the majority of my uh, classes for the latter part of my education. And I think there's just personally there's no better way to really kind of reinforce the material. You know, it's way better than just rote reading off the page, and you really get to see um, the improvement daily if you're really consistent with it as well. Um, it kind of really, especially I know with Anki, you can get a lot of different extensions there to show your progress as you move through the different decks that you made. So I think I would recommend like kind of turning your studying into like a game of sorts. Really just challenge yourself, try and make it fun, some way that it can keep you interested in the material. And yeah, I'm sure you can touch on the Quizlet side of things, but
So like, yeah, my audience knows that I'm a really big fan of Quizlet. And I think a lot of that was because like I commuted to school for like the all 4 years. Some of it was like online because of COVID and stuff, but during that transit time, I would just pull out my phone, go through like just on that SkyTrain alone, you could go through like 20, 30 cards each way. So you do that
yeah,
like you do that daily, and that's already like 60 cards a day. So that's probably like 300 cards a week that you would have just you've seen one more time. And then even on the buses or whatever, I would just study the Quizlets or the slides or whatever. And I think like just being forcing yourself to think about something and actively recall it, it's probably one of the best ways to learn. Like if you're using Quizlet or Anki, the best way I think to do it is to like see the card and then maybe try to type out your answer or get a blank piece of paper, try to write it out, or think about like really what's on the other side. Don't like just fool yourself and look at it without, actually knowing it. And then I think like that was probably one of the biggest difference makers for me, um,
Mhm.
in terms of like learning material. And in terms of like what I would put on the flashcards is things like the learning objectives for the class, the information on the slides that like I wanted to memorize, um, some good questions sometimes that either we would make or uh, like for like practice exams or whatever. And that's another really good study tip I think for both of us is to make your own exam questions because
Yes.
for one of our classes, so we started doing this very heavily in our fourth year, and for both of us, that was probably one of our highest academic average years. Um, and what we do is we'd make questions of our own based off the
Mhm.
material from the class and then answer them fully and like literally make like okay point 0.5 for this sentence or point 0.5 for this fact, 3 mark question. You need all these things to get all 5 marks or 3 marks. And then we would take it to office hours and we would check with the prof and the TAs to make sure that we're really getting everything and we're explaining everything in
Yeah.
as much depth as needed. And there's actually one class that I took in fourth year where me making those final exam questions, I made about 60 questions and some short answers and all of that. Some are longer. But what ended up happening is on the final exam, it was probably about 3/4 to 80% just the questions I had already thought of. So that ended up being a very solid in the class because of just doing that like study strategy. Because you have to think from the perspective of instructors and the people that are grading you, right?
Mhm.
Like it's like they're always kind of thinking like, oh, how can we take the information that we're teaching you and then like make it into an exam question or test. So I think that strategy is really, really good in terms of doing well. Brody, what
Absolutely.
do you have any other advice, like study tips that you would recommend if you were somebody in talking to somebody who's like 18, 19, first year or so?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you touched on it, what you just touched on there was so important. And just to add on to that, you know, it's gonna feel like these things that you're doing, whether it's office hours or that, flashcards, it's gonna like be kind of annoying and it's gonna feel really tough. But that's kind of where how you know you're doing something that's worthwhile. Because if it's too easy, it feels people love, reading off your notes. It feels good, it feels fun, but you're just not gaining as much from that process as these other techniques. Um, some other things, some things that you might not think about for studying that worked well for me was finding, you know, a really solid place to study, as well as like study music that you can really works well for you. I know some friends that like listen to like EDM music, and that works perfect for them. That's not really right for me, but some people love lo-fi or whether it's white noise or binaural beats. Like I think really experiment with different uh, songs or sounds that kind of help you get into that flow state, as you probably heard thrown around a lot. Um, so really working on kind of works well for you and your unique tastes. Um, Another thing I would recommend is not being, there's a lot of benefits to working in groups, working with, having a really tight group of friends to like go to office hours with, as you've seen like me, Bobbin, and some other bio friends. But I wouldn't be afraid to, get used to working on your own as well. That way you're gonna really find what works well for you, really find your own style. Um, so yeah, really try to not shy away from, you know, because I think some of your best work and some of your like highest focus will become from those moments when you really you learn what works well for you. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Like when we say group work and everything is like we do the calls and stuff, that would be typically about once a week, maybe more during the exam season. But it'd be like a call around like 2 hours or so. The rest of the time that we would study would be like on our own mostly. And it's like, yeah, like we said, the practice questions, using chat gpt or something to generate more questions for you, doing everything in the textbook. Like we would do everything in the textbook to get our like A pluses. We'd do everything that was assigned. We would do everything that we could find online. We would do everything kind of possible because yeah, just that's I think what you need to do if you want to get to that really high level of yeah, like academics and stuff. But yeah, bro,
yeah.
like as far as like the biology major, what's your advice to anybody who's deciding to kind of pursue bio as a major?
It's a good question. Um, I think bio is really cool because it's really broad with what it exposes you to. Like the types of courses you can go in from anything from, genetics to animal physiology, all the way to, plants. Really, you can really dive into whatever really works for you. I know friends that, started off taking bio with the dream of going to med school or dream of one thing and then completely switching their path halfway through and finding something that they love. So I would, keep an open mind if you're deciding to major in bio. Um, I think the faculty is really, really impressive at UBC with the teachers that I've been, the profs that I've had the opportunity of working with. Some of the kindest people and, you know, um, individuals that just really want to spread the passion for what they're teaching. And yeah, so just be open minded and really embrace kind of what the profs have there are there to offer you because there's some really amazing courses and some really amazing content that you can get the opportunity to learn at UBC.
Yeah, and would you say it's like a good major for med school or good major for employment wise?
Yeah, it's when you're going through the bio path, you hear a lot of like similar things, whether people want to, go down a research pathway or, you know, a lot of people tend to gravitate towards medicine when in this path. And I definitely think it does prepare you well. You're going to have a lot of the prerequisites taken care of by going through bio, especially through first year. You'll be exposed to chemistry, physics, math and then organic chemistry in second year. Like it's going to give you all these fundamentals that will prepare you um, for the MCAT and for hopefully for med school too. So I definitely don't think it's like necessary to go into bio, but it's going to be one that will definitely prepare you and give you some of the fundamental skills that you'll need down the line as well. So yeah, it's a solid option.
Yeah, I would say like bio is it's a decent major. I feel like a lot of the opportunities, like both of us have been very like um kind of persistent and we kind of worked to create our own opportunities for after we graduated, I guess. We both graduated in May of 2023 and I think like both of us like we'll talk about this a little bit more, the cold emailing. Uh, but like I think the thing with bio is there's no like direct job you're like qualified for with just this degree, like aside from maybe like stuff in like conservation or like wildlife biology or like research assistants or stuff like that. It's a very broad degree. um I think in terms of employment and like job prospects, my personal thought is maybe doing something like nursing or dental hygiene or even kinesiology because you can practice as a kinesiologist right out of school. And that's like once you take the certification exam and you can still do all like the post grad. school stuff. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, like I think both of us, and if you're thinking of bio, like you can go for it. But
Yeah.
the best thing with the best thing you can do for yourself career wise is to probably figure out kind of what you want to do with your degree and then
Mhm.
cold email literally everybody you think could help
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely. Really good advice. That's
Yeah. Brody, do you want to tell them about your story with cold emailing?
yeah, I was midway through second year and really was feeling really gravitating towards the idea of doing some research as part of my while in undergrad. And I was looking at, just different summer programs that offered research funding as well as, research opportunities. Some of the ones I found were like BC Children's Hospital, summer student research programs. Um, the Faculty of Medicine at UBC offers a summer student research program, which is one I ended up applying to. And there's many more pharmaceutical science ones, Center for Blood Research at UBC as well has some. And yeah, so I ended up just stumbling upon the page for the Faculty of Medicine's one. And they really have a cool way of showing the page. So they show all the previous funding, like all the previous projects that were funded. So you can kind of see all the different PIs that worked on these projects as well. So you can kind of look through, see if any of the projects kind of jump out at you, if they intrigue you. And you can kind of look into the PIs, look into the research, kind of look at some of the papers they've written, and just kind of get a good idea of like what they're working on and if it interests you. So I made a list of 10 to 20 PIs, and I kind of just you had to narrow it down, and then you do some research on each one, and you formulate these emails to them, and try and really tailor it to their research and why you would really be passionate to work with them. Definitely do not be just using one template email and just mass producing these emails across because, you know, they are probably bombarded with lots of emails and they can immediately tell right off the bat, this person spent 5 seconds putting this email together compared to the person that spent maybe like an hour, right? In some of these cases, you know, you really want to, if this is a job that you really take seriously, um, I would, put 30 minutes to an hour into researching their papers, reading it diligently to kind of get a really good idea of kind of what they're doing because this could be, you know, a really, uh, a year long. And in my case, I've been doing research with this group for 2.5 years now, and feel absolutely super grateful for that opportunity. But it's because you have to um, take that time and really choose these positions properly, choose the people that you reach out to um, with the with a keen eye to for who you want to work with. Um, but yeah, I got lucky. Some of the physicians and PIs reached out to me back, and I was able to choose a group that I really wanted to work with at the Center for Disease Control. And yeah, I've been just lucky enough to keep working with them ever since.
Yeah, no, it's such a good skill that I think goes ignored. Like even for myself, I work in a seniors home as like a life enrichment attendant staff. So my job like entails like leading exercise, stretch classes, dumbbell exercise, balance and like chair like standing exercises, indoor sports, all that sort of like fun recreation stuff. Because I intend to apply for like the physiotherapy program. And actually, even that job that I have, I was able to get from cold emailing. And literally, when I was kind of thinking about this, I had volunteered in a seniors home at high school because of my high school's like work learn programs and stuff like that. But then like the COVID happened and then they weren't taking any more volunteers and all that sort of stuff. So then I just reached out to every home that was in a 5 kilometer radius. And it just so happened that this one was incredibly short staffed. I went in, they requested some things like a criminal record check. And then initially I just wanted to volunteer. But because they didn't really have any people And the manager and the general manager really liked me because they see like a young kid, full of energy with all these people in their 70s, 80s, 90s sort of thing. And then just like waving to all the residents, saying hi, asking how they're doing. They ended up offering me like a position to join
Oh,
their team. And that would have never happened if I didn't just cold email and kind of reach out to them. And in these cold emails, like the way I think I was personally doing it was kind of just introduce myself, mention I'm a student at UBC, I have an interest in, say, like physiotherapy or recreation or wellness or whatever, kind of give some things that you can provide to them, like some like programs you can lead or some of your skills. Because the thing is, you should always think about it from the other person's viewpoint, I think. Like, how can you provide value to them? How can you save them time? How can you save them energy? All that sort of stuff. Make it very easy for them to say yes, like get rid of all the barriers type of thing. So I think that's a good way to structure your emails. And then I applied the same technique to getting my position at iCord at VGH, where inspired by Brody himself, I I wanted to get into research as well. And I same thing with him. Like I looked through some of the researchers in the labs and the work that we were doing. And then I basically sent a personalized email and I would do 2 to 3 a day, but I'd do it consistently. In total, I probably sent around 30 emails and some of them got back to me. Some of them said, okay, come back later, in the fall when we resume our work, when we, have more opportunity. Some of them just didn't have space. But then one said yes, and you only need one yes.
yes.
And now I get to work with this cool team of like people who are like physiotherapists, doctors, postdocs, researchers, like, and we work with this cool machine known as the Locomat exoskeleton.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm working on this clinical trial where we're basically putting patients in this machine who have been paralyzed or have had spinal cord injury, and we get them to like move their legs in that motion and like do like robotic supported walking along with spinal cord stimulation for some of them. It's like a randomized trial, and like it's such a cool opportunity, and I met so many people. I'm so grateful for it. But just like thinking about how I would have never gotten this opportunity if I didn't just I would have never gotten lucky if I didn't send some emails, basically.
It's amazing. It sounds like such a cool opportunity. Like you said, these things are out there and they exist, right? And you just have to take that first step to, it's a bit uncomfortable for sure to reach out because it feels very personal when you're reaching out to the people who are clearly super busy, like you said,
Mm.
but it can be extremely rewarding too. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
definitely recommend it.
cold emailing is I think one of the best. It's something that's so simple. Like it's so like
Yeah,
so out there. Anybody can do it. Like I even do this with people on LinkedIn who I'm interested in and talking to or whatever, or getting
yeah,
advice from, or people who are like in position where I want to be. Send them a quick message like, "Hey, I saw you were doing this at this, or you're in this program. Congratulations, you must have worked so hard. Would it be okay if I asked you a few questions?" And then most of the time, people are so friendly and they're always like, they like to feel admired and they like to feel like, they were once in that position you're in and they like to help.
yeah,
Same with me, like whenever I get messages from the followers or whatever, like, or emails, I always try to take some time to respond properly and give actual good feedback and help
yeah.
because you kind of know what that person's going through.
Yeah. Yeah, you recognize that, you were there in that position one time and people, were have were kind enough to, lend a hand to give you experience or to give you advice. Like it's it's a cool cycle, that's really, like you said, everyone has access to it. It just takes that first initiation, uh, first step to go for it.
Yeah, no, it's such a good skill. I think people are friendly. It's just you just have to go first is what
Yeah,
my advice would be there.
absolutely.
But yeah, why don't we talk a bit more about UBC? So, in your time on doing the bachelor's degree, were you always on campus and on res? And how was that experience?
Yeah, so I spent my first year on campus. UBC kind of guarantees uh, like residency, like you can stay there. Um, you basically definitely get like a room in first year. Um, so I took advantage of that, moving out, and I was able to be have a roommate with my one of my closest friends from high school, which was definitely a benefit to really know the person that you're going to be a roommate with really well, because you know when you think about it, it's like, oh, you'll make it work, but it definitely helps to have someone you're really close with and you trust and you have like a really long-term relationship with. Um, but then yeah, then COVID happened. We got kicked off residence and then had to move back home. So second year I was living from home. There wasn't much commuting because everything was recorded. And then third year, I was still living at home, still kind of like the aftermath of COVID. So that year I was carpooling with friends, some of the high school friends that still go to UBC, um, with occasional busing here and there. Um, yeah, so that was it's tough, coming from North Delta all the way up to campus, but um, you have to do sometimes you just have to make it work. And I was lucky enough to have a really good group of guys to carpool with and make the trip a little bit more enjoyable. It's as well as using flashcards here and there to kind of make time pass the time on the commute. But and then for my fourth year, I moved back on campus just to kind of enjoy the lack of commute and just really enjoy that last year and put as much time into the studies as possible and take away from like the stress from commuting as well. So yeah, that's kind of my timeline there. But
And would you say the experience is worth it? Like, would you recommend it to somebody who's like, what's your thoughts on?
yeah, there's pros and cons to everything. Um, I think living on campus can be really beneficial, especially for people, say you're coming from, maybe you're coming from North Van or Langley or, these places that like a 2 hour bus ride or, an hour drive, not even taking into account traffic. So in those cases, I think that's a huge positive. Um, but there's negatives too. I mean, another positive would be, you get to stay at home, you can have home cooked meals, which is always nice. You get, uh, I love spending time with my family, like kind of that stuff, you know, don't take that for granted. Like that stuff's so precious too. So that's a huge positive. Um, but living on campus is nice. You get to kind of experience more of the campus culture. You get to stay there. You don't have to rush off every day. You get to spend more time with friends, maybe study later. More access to office hours is a huge positive. Um, just enjoying it. It feels kind of like you're having more of like the real university experience in a way when you're living on campus. Um, but the cons are obviously the price. You have to cook on your own, which is a huge one. You know, not to be not to
Brody's the
be
master chef.
no, not to be you know don't don't forget about the cooking because the cost of it to go shopping for it, and then to actually cook it, dishes. Definitely do not sleep on the amount of work that goes into cooking. So um, I'd say, you know, maybe take a year to definitely get that opportunity to live on campus if you can. I know it's not possible for everyone. I know that a lot of it's also random chance. You can apply for the housing options, but sometimes it's just luck of the draw, and you don't get just don't get a room. Um, so I would say definitely it's a lovely opportunity if you have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah. No, I always commuted from school and I was thinking like, okay, I'll probably just for grad school. Maybe if I need to go, I'll go. But in the meantime, I just like for me, I was commuting from Burnaby, so it was always like a hour 15-ish type of thing. each way. And then it was like I get a ride to the Sky Train or whatever most of the time, which is very generous. So very thankful for the parents for that. Another tip, if you do decide to commute, is stack your classes. So I would only go to campus like 2 to 3 times a week so that I could go work at the seniors home and do my tutoring stuff and all that sort of stuff on the days that I wasn't there. And I think it's also fine, but I think yeah, getting the campus experience is probably it's probably something that's really cool. Um, maybe worthwhile. I think it depends. You have to like really weigh it, see what your options are, how it would be.
Absolutely. I think that's, it's an individual, um, scenario for everyone. And there's another thing is just thought of remembered is like that, there's also more distractions that come from being on campus as well, right? You know, being around, more of your friends, that kind of environment can be um is good for some things with like studying, but also, more distractions as well.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, definitely weigh it with your own situation, the finances aspect of it, with the pros outweigh the cons. Um, yeah, sure.
Another point to make is if you do decide to just live at home and just save that, then that's almost like that's a good chunk of money that you can later use for whatever too. So really think about what would be best for you, I would say, and like think like personally.
Definitely.
And Brody, you mentioned you had taken the MCAT this summer. So you want to share some so not to brag, but Brody is very smart. Like he's in the 94th or 95th percentile for the MCAT. The average is just stunning.
Oh, it's too generous, too generous. Oh, um,
Wait,
um,
what would you advise for somebody who's trying to take the MCAT and trying to get to like that 517, 515 type of level or even higher? Or what would you do differently?
yeah, so I think I took a pretty standard uh approach to it. Most people actually, I think one thing is that I took it in my fourth year or after I graduated, I took the MCAT. I think most people take it in, after second year or third year. I think that would have been is also a good option as well because the material is more fresh in your mind. You just finished probably organic chemistry, a lot of the prerequisites for it. So that was one thing that you had to relearn taking it so much later in your degree. Um, but I took I guess 3 months to study for it. Um, Basically, as soon as our exams ended at the end of April, I took a few weeks off to kind of recalibrate and just um, you know recharge the batteries, if you will. And then I just studied. Um, I had the Kaplan books. I spent probably a month and a half um, going through the content review phase. Um, and then after that, I transitioned to UWorld. So I bought the full access to the packages of questions there. And there's like 3,000 like something questions in there. So very huge resource there. Um, and then after that, about maybe 3 weeks or 2 weeks out from the actual exam, I started doing the actual AAMC material and started doing some of the actual. I did a few of the third party full lengths previously, but it was only in like the last 3 weeks or so when I started doing the actual AMC full lengths. Um, which is one thing I would actually recommend not to do. Um, I would definitely change some things if I could go back in time. I would spend less time. You probably hear this all the time, like on any individual that took the MCAT or anyone that's giving advice, is that they would spend less time doing the content review phase and more time just doing questions or doing full length. And I would 100%, endorse that answer as well, because a lot of people that want to pursue medicine, you know, probably have, to a certain extent, like perfectionism kind of, trait, really wanting to, you know, do memorize everything from the books, and then I'll get a 528 on the exam. And I definitely fell victim to like that mentality at points in the journey. Um, so yeah, like you get caught up in the content review phase and you're just like, I want to know everything in this book and I want to make flashcards. I want to memorize every fact possible. And it's just not possible. Or it is possible, but it's just not feasible within that time frame and not the most efficient way of your use of your time. Um, so instead, I would actually I would recommend kind of getting through the content review phase as quickly as possible, ideally under a month. You know, I would read the Kaplan books or read a Princeton review or any review book that you like, as long as you get that first exposure to it. And I think that's how you should treat it. Like treat that first pass as just that, just get exposed to the material and have seen it somewhere. Because then after that, then you can start going through UWorld, and UWorld, their answers are so detailed and um, so well done that you're going to be learning it again. You're going to be exposed to all these concepts in such a really well put way, such a well explanations that you didn't have to perfectly master it the first time around. And so by the end of my UWorld part, I only finished like half the questions, which came out to be like just over like 1,000 or so. Um, and which seems like it might be a lot, but honestly, making use of that full question bank, like a friend of ours, um, he definitely used the whole question bank and spent less time on the review section. And I would definitely recommend this to people as well. Just really try and expose yourself to as many questions as possible, and then get to the AMC material because that's the gold mine, right? And then because that's what the actual exam is going to look like. And I definitely had to rush my review of the AMC material at the end. So really don't hold yourself up, don't try to be a perfectionist with the material. Just get through that and then really try and get to the U world or get to practice questions or full lengths as soon as possible. Because that's what it's going to look like. And if anything, I would say that um, the actual exams like look very differently from like the full lengths look very different from the the material. Like say you're looking at a very popular Anki deck that already exists is like the Miles Down deck that a lot of people know about. Like if you memorize every flashcard in there, that looks very different from the full length questions, right? So, just by going through the flashcards does not mean that it equates like extrapolates to doing really well on uh, the MCAT, the actual MCAT. So I would say just try and really expose yourself to as many full lengths and AMC questions as possible. If I could go back in time.
Yeah. No, that's I think really gonna help the people that are listening, or yeah, like people who are gonna take the MCAT. Like I tell people all the time to really spend all their time when they're studying doing questions instead of like highlighting or rereading notes or whatever. Yeah, it's cool to see that even MCAT is very like when you're prepping, you spend your time doing questions and doing real AAMC questions because they make the test. And
Absolutely.
yeah, no, that's really good.
Yeah. Another thing actually that I would recommend is um, creating a schedule that really works for you. You'll probably see a lot of templates online and videos and countless videos with thumbnails saying this is how you have to do it and this is how you score 99th percentile. Like, that might be helpful and you definitely might feel tempted to watch those, but I think everybody has different responsibilities and everyone has a different way of studying or different lifestyle. So I think sit down with yourself and have an honest conversation with yourself about how much time do you really want to put into the studying? Because you could put in 300 hours or you could put in 700 hours or 1,000 hours. It just depends on where you're at. And, maybe if you're working a job, maybe you're working part-time, it wouldn't be feasible to maybe expect to be able to put in 700 hours. Um, so really, um, be honest with yourself. And I would recommend not everybody has the luxury, of course, of putting aside responsibilities. Some people definitely have to, still make an income to, bring an income to survive, but definitely try to minimize, maybe if it means, um, rescheduling things or, putting off your part-time job for a few months, you know, I would definitely treat the MCAT like a 9 to 5 job and give it the time that it deserves because it really is a beast of an exam. And yeah, definitely pick a schedule and kind of create a routine that really works well for you.
No, Brody is an absolute beast though. Like when he is taking this exam, I would call him like every week or so, check up on it, see how he's doing and everything. And he was putting in like 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, pretty much every day of the week. It was like you could not understate how hard you have to work to get to like that level of a score and get through that exam. It's really difficult, I would say. But yeah, no, it's amazing to see like the hard work pay off, I'm guessing. All that, right?
Yeah, no, it's such an emotional journey. It's you
Mhm.
might feel okay leaving the exam, but as like the time, there's like a month between when you take it and when you see the results. And what I experienced was, you go through periods where like, did I absolutely just bomb that test? Did I, you might have felt confident leaving it, or you might have felt, semi okay, but it's like the the anxiety that spans that waiting period is tough. And it's an emotional journey, but it's definitely one of maturity. I think you definitely learn a lot about yourself by the time you're done it. You have to go through a lot of sacrifices. Obviously true for everyone, depending on um, how much time you want to put into it. But I definitely think it's one that, um, yeah, it's very character building.
Well, for sure. Yeah, so I think that's good for the MCAT. So with medical school, what are some of the extracurriculars that or some of the things that you're thinking about when writing the supplemental applications and including like what do they value?
Um, it's interesting because yeah, I definitely don't know too much because from my position, I'm definitely still going through the process. Um, and constantly trying to learn more along the way. This is my first cycle applying to the Canadian med schools, and there's a lot of information out there. Lots of people talking about they know this and they know that, and I think the only people that really know is definitely like the admissions committees, and we can take our guesses that based on who gets accepted and stuff like that, and more often than not, it's people that are passionate about things that they really love. Um, One thing that I was thinking a lot about was, you know, some med schools really value having lots of entries on their for their extracurriculars, and I would say that definitely try to, not put in fluff in your applications. This was kind of a dilemma that I was working through. Just, not trying to put aside the idea that you need a huge number of things, but more focusing on the quality of the experiences that you're doing and really trying to put on work on volunteer or extracurriculars that mean something to you. Because say you do get to interview phase and you put on things that don't really mean much to you, they're going to be asking you about these things, and you want them to be meaningful events and things that probably touched you in some way. Because when you speak to those extracurriculars, it'll show when you're passionate about it, rather than say you put like 2 weekends on it, right? Or you spent the minimum amount of effort to do these things. So I think find things that you're passionate for. Um, I've definitely found passion for research. Um, I've definitely found passion for research over the years, and I've been lucky enough to work on some volunteer organizations, some overlap with Volvin with Vision for Life. But um, yeah, I would recommend, you know, definitely trying to find things that mean something to you, and really running with them rather than trying to check boxes, as often is the case with the pre-med grind and stuff like that. So definitely try and avoid that.
Yeah, like one of the friends in our group actually just got accepted to med school recently, and we were kind of thinking about like how typical normal pre-meds are always just like, oh, I'm just gonna get this one research checkbox, so I'm just gonna get this one leadership checkbox, so I'm gonna get this checkbox. Like I feel like that's a really it's not the best way to go about these things. Like I feel like doing things that you're actually interested in and have an interest for and genuinely enjoy are probably like some of the best things you can do. Like I'm applying to physiotherapy, and some of the things that I was kind of doing and have been doing for 4 years is I'm a crisis responder for like kids help phones. So like I respond to people having suicidal thoughts, anxiety, depression, financial stress, all that sort of stuff. We connect them with people that can help them and give them resources, try to support them in ways that we can and train to do. The seniors home I talked about did some volunteering in a physiotherapy clinic and like helped patients with stretches, exercises, all that sort of stuff, ensuring safety and a lot of just learning. And then obviously the I-Cord and the research and the tutoring and yeah, Vision for Life is an organization that we both are a part of, and we basically help the homeless people in the downtown Vancouver East Side, and we kind of advocate for them, give them supply drops, all that sort of stuff, raise awareness and fundraise and stuff. And yeah, like I feel like for me, like I started tutoring and I started making this content, and I just found so much like it was always fun for me to kind of
Mhm.
go about stuff like this. And I think just about everything I do, it's always been kind of like, oh, this is kind of fun. Let's keep going. Or how can I do more? Or how can I like provide more value? Or how can I like, versus I feel like if you do things that you generally hate, then it won't be like you're not gonna be as interested. You're not gonna want to put in the work. You're not gonna, it's definitely not the best way to go about it for I think volunteering and stuff like that.
I totally agree. And it's and if maybe the thing that doesn't, maybe you can't find the thing that really draws your attention, like yeah, go out there and create it too, right? Like maybe there doesn't exist that perfect volunteer organization that you dream of, right? Maybe there's that niche that just is missing right now. So I think, if you're on a admissions committee and you see someone that, started an organization that they were just absolutely and passionate about, they couldn't spend enough time doing it, they just lived for it. That tells me a million things more than someone that just, they just popped in at the local food bank for like once a week, right? It's night and day.
Or just like a member or something of like a club that they kind of go to like the bare minimum for and
Yeah,
putting it in the space. So yeah, I think definitely do things that you enjoy and all of that is a good idea. Yeah. Would you have any for like final thoughts? Would you have any advice for like any young 18-year-old or 17-year-old, 16-year-old that majority of my audience is?
um,
Students.
yeah, I'd say that, you know, no matter what you're doing, right, there's gonna be, ups and downs, bumps in the road. So, um, some good advice I got a while back from one of my colleagues at CDC was, um, you know, if you think about your maybe like your mental health and your well-being as these pillars, right? And or as like this building. Um, it's built up on pillars, right? And the pillars might be like your family and your hobbies and all these things that make up your life. So, medicine or science or your studies might be a huge pillar, right? It's maybe something that you put a lot of energy into, a lot of time. But you have to remember to definitely, spend time building up these other pillars as well, because things won't always be smooth. Maybe things might not always go smoothly with school, right? So definitely put time as well into, relationships, your family. For me, that's a big one. With spending time with your pets, going for walks, as those, as we know a lot about, staying active, working out, right? You have to. I think if you want to live a healthy, balanced lifestyle, I would definitely always try and keep that in the back of your mind that you know we're more than just one pillar, right? And that you have to, really, really try and work on having that balance in your lifestyle, to kind of maintain that healthy mindset and not burn out.
For
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, no, exercise is definitely one of the things that I really value as well and made time for during school. And I think it's just so important to get some sort of movement, whether it's just a walk, whether it's go to the gym, whether it's swimming, tennis, whatever, just any sort of thing. Even in COVID, we would just do like stuff in our rooms, like just push-ups or just
yeah,
anything to get moving. Uh,
yeah,
and for like mental health is very important. Like the crisis responder, I see it like every shift is like, anxiety, depression, all that sort of stuff. Like some of the tips we give to the callers and the people who need help are journaling. So just take out a notepad, start transferring whatever is in your brain to that. Just type out whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking. Some prompts you can use are today is a great day because, or I am grateful for, or I'm feeling
absolutely.
this. And really destigmatize like mental health, really. Like
Yeah,
your well-being is very important. And recently I've told Brody about this too, but mindfulness is very underrated. It's like gym for your mind. And there's this app called Smiling Mind, not sponsored, but like they have these free meditations that you can use to kind of relax yourself and get it basically mindfulness that you can think of like gym for the brain and like trying to get your brain
wow,
to concentrate on something. And there's just like be present, like focus on your breath, like going in and out, or focus on what you're feeling in your body, or because the human mind, we did biology as our degrees, so we've learned like so much about evolution and all of that. And the human mind is, I think, so incredibly negative and built for survival. It's just gone through billions of years of just getting to this point where it's focused on, surviving and avoiding harm and all that sort of stuff. So if you can really learn to control your mind and just being, at ease, I think it's just gonna be so good because life is like really bumpy. Like I applied for physiotherapy last cycle, but I wasn't able to make it in. Um, and I feel like you're always gonna have setbacks and all of that, but the people who end up making it and end up like getting to where they want to be are the people that don't give up and the people that keep pushing and keep getting better, keep taking it day by day. And I feel like to do that, you really have to take care of yourself and your body and your mind. And
absolutely. Well said, man. It's really good.
yeah. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for coming on to the show. The first ever episode and first ever podcast I've done.
It's
So
exciting.
yeah,
Glad to
start
be here.
appreciating.
It's an honor.
Closing thoughts or anything you want to say?
No, I think you had a really nice way of ending it there. And yeah, I just say, be grateful for everything in life. That's something I'm definitely really working on recently and enjoying the small things. Um, yeah, there's just so much going on in the world right now. And I think, definitely don't take life for granted. And yeah, just take everything in and enjoy every moment that we have.
Yeah. All right. With that, thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe, leave a comment if you're still here. And yeah, we'll be trying to make some more podcasts, ideally once a week, and I'll try to bring on as many people as I can and give you guys as much insight as and advice as possible from people just a few years probably older than you.